Hi, my name is Taylor Smith, and today I'll be presenting on why it's important to know your audience. I'll first start off. One time I was giving a toast at a wedding. I included a lot of jokes and some brief stories about the groom and myself and our friends that we've had in the past. And some of them were okay, others weren't quite what you would call G-rated. While there was laughs in the crowd, I noticed that there were some silent folks who were staring at me. I didn't know that the bride's family took things so seriously. I could have avoided that awkward, uncomfortable feeling if I would have just known my audience. So before you say it, think about who will be listening and what do they want to hear. The starting point of communication is becoming aware of the intended audience and approaching them on the appropriate level. So many times people get themselves into controversies and difficult situations because they do not consider the audience. Anyone could make a list of these controversies. You hear all the time politicians, sports athletes, actors, movie stars, all making bad comments towards because they didn't take into consideration their intended audience. To ensure successful verbal communication, first, think about who will hear it. Put yourself in their shoes. What do they want to gain from listening to you? What do you want them to gain from listening to you? Be a salesperson. Salespeople are no stranger to the concepts of putting themselves in the buyer's situation. It means the seller, in this case, you, the communicator, will consider, what benefits the audience. What do they want to see in your presentation? What do they want on the receiving end? When you have an audience, take into consideration, what their background is. That could be anything from education, income, ethnic background. For example, when you say, what is a lot of money? That could vary. If you're talking to a working class audience, they could think making $100,000 a year is a lot of money. If you're talking to professional athletes, you're talking in the millions, hundreds of millions is a lot of money. What is tall? That again, all depends on your background, your experience. For example, my girlfriend's family, no one's over 5'7", 5'8". So myself at 5'11" would seem tall to them. While I'm around some of my buddies who are all 6'5", 6'6", I'm the short one. What is hot? What is cold? There's another good one. I grew up in the north and now I live in the south. 88-degree day in Buffalo, New York is hot. An 88-degree day in the summer in Atlanta is a nice, cool day. Same with winters. 25 degrees, average day in Buffalo, New York. 25 degrees, very cold in Atlanta. That's a fun exercise. If you ask a diverse group of people, you'll get several different answers. Another good example is the word hit. It can mean many things. A hit, a baseball hit, a top 40 hit. You're at the blackjack table, you hit. To avoid having messages misconstrued or misunderstood, choose language and try to avoid slang that's understood by most of the audience. You may not be able to completely adapt it to everyone, but do your best to make sure the majority of the crowd understands it. Another thing to take into consideration is ask yourself, who's my audience? Let's say you're giving a political speech. You want to consider the area you're in. Am I talking to Democrats or Republicans? Or am I talking to young people or old people? You may want to change your message to pinpoint it towards the intended audience. What are you presenting? What does the audience need to know? If you're giving financial advice, you want to take, what do they want to know in that financial advice? Are you talking about setting up savings accounts with younger people? You need to save money, or you're setting up your basic 401k. Are you talking to older people who are near retirement and how they should set up their financial? So you got to take that into consideration. What does the audience already know? This is important because if you're giving a brief biology lecture and you're talking to a bunch of PhDs, you don't want to go into subject matter that is, freshman level courses. But if you're giving a biology lecture to people who are unfamiliar with the topic, you want to start with those entry level ideas. And what's the attitude towards the topic? This kind of goes back towards, could we go back towards the political element I talked about earlier? If you're trying to persuade them, if you think that they may be a little wary or unsure of the topic, you may want it to be more persuasive. If you're trying to get them to take on your point of view, like if you're a salesman, if it's something they're there to kind of support the idea, we give a lot of things to support it. Another thing you need to understand is the cultural views. This was going back to my incident with the bridal party and the parents of the bride. If I would have known that they were a little more conservative, I would have known to kind of keep the more, say, risque type stories out of my speech. And also, one last thing you want to take into consideration is what kind of media should you use. This even can go into how you dress. Do you want to wear a suit and tie? Do you want to wear something a little more casual, go with the Steve Jobs look? Do you want to use a lot of visual aids? And what kind of visual aids are you going to use? Do you want things that are exciting, that are going to pop out at you, using movie clips? Or do you want, charts and graphs, things more conservative, that get straight to the point? But I think finally, the final topic is, no matter what, just really consider your audience when you're delivering information. Put yourself in their shoes and think before you speak. Thanks.